What Happens in the Woods is a true crime podcast. We discuss events that are often violent in nature. Listeners' discretion is advised.
Anyone who commits a crime should expect to be punished in a fitting manner. Our society demands justice when criminals are sentenced. As we've mentioned in a few cases, that sometimes becomes convoluted when we talk of minors who commit crimes. If you commit a serious crime as a young child or teenager, should you be held just as accountable as if you were an adult? What if an adult led you to commit a horrible crime? Hell, what if they even encouraged it? This is a topic that unfortunately has no good answer. There are many cases that involve young adults whose crimes are unthinkably horrific. Where do we find justice when a child commits a crime? Join us this episode as we bring to you a case that revisits this topic, where the victim of the crime may not be the only victim in the case. This is True Crime Podcast, What Happens in the Woods, with your hosts, Jess and Bryce. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Welcome to my TED Talk. Someday maybe I'll have my own TED Talk. Everybody else has one. What do you think?
Yes. Do I have to edit it too?
Yeah, you would. That's your punishment.
Why is that my punishment?
You're eternally going to be my
editor.
My editor.
My producer.
Yes. Forever and
Okay.
ever.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Bryce.
Hello.
It's been a week.
A whole week.
It's been 2 weeks. It's been a time. It's been a period of time in between the last time we met here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been flying by. So much so I didn't even realize that we needed to record. Thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Somebody's on top of it. Hey, I have things going on.
Yeah, what things? Do tell.
I have a new job.
A new job?
Yeah. A new job.
Besides storyteller?
Besides this, yes. I have a new actual employment. I no longer need to leave the house.
No, you don't.
For anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun.
Says you.
What do you mean says me?
It's not fun.
I'm perfectly fine to be here.
Okay.
You act like this is not a good thing.
I mean, yeah, it is.
I'm all good with it. All right. What do you have for us this week?
I think the UK still in the lead.
Oh, okay.
The nice thing about our host, for our podcast is that it gives us locations, and you would think it would be England.
Oh, so it's part of the UK, but it's not England.
Yeah.
Okay, who is it?
It's actually Scotland.
Oh, it's my people.
Yes.
Oh, my people are listening. I love it.
Yes. And it actually breaks it down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the city is actually Forfar. And I don't know if I'm saying it right, so...
Forfar.
There you go.
Okay.
It's in Forfar, Scotland.
Oh, that makes my heart happy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. I wondered what you were doing over there
But
with
the UK is still in the lead since Scotland is part of the UK.
Yes.
Hello, Scotland.
Hello.
Thank you for listening, along with everybody else. Sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Just outside of the United States. And even at that, it's Seattle.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Seattle.
Yeah.
Hometown love.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Any other updates that you have?
No, that's all I got.
Okay. Well, I have an update.
Do tell.
It makes me nervous, but you guys, we're trying the merch again. We're trying merchandise. I don't know why this makes me so, gives me anxiety. I really don't. But when we tried it before, I ordered a bunch of samples and I hated them. They didn't wash well. And it really pissed me off because they were not cheap. So I put a kibosh on it and I was like, okay, well, we'll figure that out. We'll get back to it another time. And that was last season.
Yeah.
And, I actually have been playing around with this since the beginning of this season. And I just kept delaying. And finally, I think we're okay. I think I'm comfortable with it.
Oh.
Yeah. We got I went with a completely different company. So,
Okay.
So there's going to just be a limited run. I'm not trying to be like, oh, buy our merch. If anybody wants one, you'll have a month about to get one. There's also going to be something special for WTF Wednesdays because that is its own special thing. And yes. I cannot not do something with the what the fucks.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. What do you mean you neither? What do you have? You've already done stuff.
No.
It's my turn.
Yeah, okay.
Oh my God.
You do things.
I hate it when you do this to me.
I don't have anything planned. I'm just kidding.
Whatever. It's going to be completely different. I'm going to come in. It's not even going to be my podcast anymore.
No. WTF, I don't have anything planned. Nothing changed. No.
Oh, okay. I'll act like I believe you.
Okay.
Nobody at home can see, but I am nodding my head vigorously. Like I really believe this. Anyways, interrupted me.
Sorry.
So yeah, limited run. So starting Monday, August 9th until Friday, September 3rd. I don't know what a month is now. If this goes well, like I said, WTF merch will be available. I just want to make sure that, what we decide to put out there isn't just overwhelming and just ridiculous for no reason. So for now, it's just going to be this limited run of just our logo, a couple of t-shirt choices. And as a way to say thank you for everyone listening, we also are going to do a giveaway to one lucky winner.
One
to win a t-shirt. And the details for that are going to be at the end of the episode. So make sure you listen all the way through. And yes, I'm doing that on purpose. I'm not a fool. I know people want the goods. You got to wait till the end.
Okay.
I don't have anything else. So we'll circle back to that.
Okay.
Any other housekeeping?
No.
All right. We're ready to get to the case?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, this case is one that made me contemplate, really take a look at how we charge and put underage criminals through the system, basically. Yeah. And if it's fair. And I know that varies from state to state. There are a lot of different state laws, federal laws that are in play, and nothing is the same across the board. And I think that might be part of my concern with that, is that there are states where, automatically a 14-year-old who commits a certain crime is going to go into the adult system.
Yeah.
So this one is just, it makes you think. And I have an opinion. I'm going to kind of save that, but I'm curious as to what your opinion is going to be on this one, particularly this case.
Okay.
And of course, we always want the listeners to chime in. So, please let us know your thoughts on this one as well. So we are discussing the murder of Jerry Heimann in 2001. This crime involves quite a few people. So I'm going to just do my best to streamline, be as detailed, but as streamlined as possible with all of it.
Okay.
All right. So Jerry was a 64-year-old man who had retired from Boeing. So he had lived a few different places, but he retired from Boeing. He was living in the Everett area, which is, for those who don't know, it's about 45 minutes north of Seattle on a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was living in Everett with his 89-year-old mother. His mother needed round-the-clock care as she was suffering from Alzheimer's disease, which, it's horrible. Jerry himself was a terminal cancer patient at this time.
Wow.
Right. So the help for his mom, was greatly needed. Apparently, he declined treatment for his cancer so that he could have as much time in good health without, being sick and incapacitated in any way.
Yeah.
So that he could spend that with his mother for as long as possible. So there is mention in court documents that he had children. So he had a son and a daughter that are named, but I don't believe that they live close by. I believe the daughter lived in Oregon and one of his sons lived in Arkansas, specifically that are named in some of the information that I got. He had at least one other son that I'm not sure where he lived, but not close. His obituary actually mentions another son. So 4 children altogether. One son had passed away already.
Okay.
So he was taking care of his mom on his own, from what I can tell. And I'm not sure, there's no mention of state help or, in-home care or anything like that. Not that necessarily will provide much help. Sometimes it's more of a hindrance to go through that process than anything. Yeah. So as far as I can tell, though, it was just the 2 of them. And this is how 38-year-old Barbara Opel enters their lives. So Barbara is at that time a single mom of 3 children. And up until moving in with Jerry, their family life had been, unstable is putting it lightly for these people.
Okay.
There are records that Barbara and her kids were constantly on the move, living in as many as 20. I read an account of 22 places, different residences in, Washington, within the same area, over 7 years, over a 7-year period.
Why is that?
She constantly was leaving. She was evicted quite a few times. She was constantly leaving without paying rent, just skipping on in the middle of the night, leaving because she didn't pay rent. At some point, her and the kids were living in the car, and it just seemed to be one thing after another with her.
How many did she have?
3 kids.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So Jerry offered to help her out with a place to live in exchange for helping care for his mother. They just randomly met someplace, not sure where, struck up conversation, and he was like, yeah, I could use some help. Sounds like you could use some help too. And, it seems like this should have been just a change in luck for her. And, the help that she needed to get herself going, get her on the right path, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we would not be discussing this today if that were the case.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Jerry would end up paying dearly for placing his trust in Barbara. And, his mom ended up paying as well. All he was trying to do was just help her and her kids have some stability. And it really backfired for him. So there's just kind of a little backstory for reference. I'm going to go ahead and get right to the night of the murder. And I'm starting off with basics here. So again, more details will follow.
Okay.
So we're on April 13th, 2001. Jerry entered his home through the side kitchen door. It was kind of late at night. He was greeted by a group of teenage boys with baseball bats who began to beat him on his head and various parts of his body. Every time he tried to get back up, they would beat him back down. The boys were then joined by 2 teen girls who took turns stabbing Jerry repeatedly with the 10-inch kitchen knife. Jerry was completely dumbfounded. He had no idea of, what was happening, why these kids were in his home, and was completely caught off guard. It was a horrific and bloody crime. He was murdered by the 5 teens in his own home with no one to help him, and nobody could call the authorities for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was just out of the blue? Out of the blue.
Yeah. He just came home one night. He'd been out he liked to go hang out in bars. He came home and one kid took the first whack and that was it. They just beat him until they couldn't beat him anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me go through the list of the teenagers who carried out this crime.
Okay.
The first that I will mention is Barbara's oldest child, 13-year-old Heather Opel.
Okay.
Heather was one of the young ladies who had the knife that night. Next is Jeffrey Grote. He was the oldest of the kids at the age of 17. Okay.
All right.
So he and Heather had been dating for all of one entire fucking week when he and the others murdered Jerry.
Okay.
1 week. Jeffrey enlisted the help of a friend named Kyle Boston, who was 14 at the time of this crime. And then Kyle had a cousin who was 13 at the time. We do not have the name of the cousin. I will get into a little, like, why a little bit later.
Okay.
But that's 4 of them. Then lastly, Heather's 14-year-old best friend who helped her with the stabbing was Miriam Oliver.
All right.
So none of these kids is over the age of 17.
Okay.
Most of them 13, 14.
Yeah.
Beating this guy senseless to death in his own home. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So at this point, you're probably like, why? Why would these kids do this? What is the motive? Whose idea was this? What is going on?
Mom's idea.
It entirely was Mom's idea. The motive was what it always is: money, greed, self-entitlement. And it wasn't by these kids. The mastermind was Barbara Opel. Yes. This fucking mom of the year and her own teenage daughter, her daughter's boyfriend, and her best friend murdered this man.
All for money.
All for money. You want to guess at how much?
$200.
A little bit more than that.
Well, you've told me weirder.
Yeah, I have.
I'll say 10,000.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll come back to why that amount. We'll get there in a second.
What the?
I'm asking you, lock in your answer. Are you set with that?
Yeah, 10,000.
10,000. Okay, we'll circle back.
Did he have a safe?
No, there was no safe.
Did he Mr. Krabs it and just put it under his mattress?
Mr. Krabs. No, he did not.
All right. Okay, well then I changed my answer to like 1,000.
You said final answer.
Well, no, see, because now he doesn't have a safe and he doesn't have a mattress that he stuffs it in.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have a bank account.
Okay, well, I'm just thinking high-tech criminals here with bats and knives. Okay, 10,000. There you go.
Okay, 10,000. Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
But I would like to take what's in the box.
This isn't the game show.
Oh.
No, and we're not wearing costumes, and I don't have assorted items in my purse. Okay. Does anybody know what that game show is?
Let's make a deal.
I was going to ask the audience.
Oh. I take back my answer.
Never mind. I'll get on with this. Okay, so I'm going to go back a little bit here. So when Barbara moved into Jerry's home with her kids in 2000, he trusted her with the care of his mother and with purchases for running the home. So he had converted the lower basement level of his home into an apartment for the Opel family.
Okay.
While he and his mother, lived on the main floor and then upstairs. His mom is in a wheelchair, so she's confined to just the one story of the house. Barbara had access to the entire home and at times Jerry's checkbook. She would run errands, pick up medications, groceries, things, right?
Yeah.
So he obviously didn't know enough about her to be concerned with that.
Yeah.
Or he never would have let her do that, let alone left his mother with this person. So while researching information on Heather's trial and sentencing, I came across an article in Seattle Weekly's website that just had an abundance. Every paragraph was just more distressing news. It was an entirely, I feel bad for the person that had to gather that information and write that article. It was so distressing to read.
Okay.
Yeah. So this article in particular brought to light to how Barbara so easily manipulated her daughter and friends to carry out this crime. And it was a pattern of years upon years of mental and possibly physical abuse that you can see through CPS reports and legal documents. There are numerous reports from neighbors and landlords that Barbara was possibly abusive, both mentally and physically, to her children. Nothing was ever done. There are also reports that her mother, the children's grandmother, was abusive to them as well. Again, nothing ever done. Heather and her brother had been irregularly going to counseling, so they should have been going quite frequently, but they would go very sporadically from the ages of 6 and 4, respectively.
Okay.
So Heather was 6, he was 4.
Yeah.
There are reports that their father was abusive to Barbara and the kids as well. The article mentioned that Barbara's 11-year-old son, quote, couldn't remember the name of his father, but remembered that he had broken his nose around the age of 5.
Oh.
Yeah. There are reports that the kids were often left alone at very young ages, like toddler age. Some neighbors commenting that they were often locked out of their house, would be sitting outside of their apartment or their house, just left. Some of these neighbors would then invite them to come and help with yard work or play in their yards. When they would see the kids outside, they would, try to give them a safe place to be.
Yeah.
CBS responded to an incident report that Barbara had shot at her son with a pellet gun, actually hit him in his arm. Nothing happened. Repeatedly, reports came in from many different sources that Barbara was incredibly abusive in public to her kids, even at sporting events at their schools.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing was done. No action was taken to remove the kids. They offered counseling. They offered resources for nutrition. Of course, she got state support. She got, food stamps, all of that. And they offered stress management classes to her. The children were not removed.
Okay.
Yeah. Barbara was also in legal disputes with the father of the 2 oldest children until he finally gave up and he stopped fighting for custody. I can't say that his abuse was documented like hers was. There's just that one
allegation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Apparently, though, she was not adhering to the custody agreement. So they had shared custody. He was paying his child support.
Mm-hmm.
But she would take off and not tell him where they were going. She wouldn't be able to be reached. No action was taken against her because it was too difficult to be proven. So again, if he was also abusive or if it was just her, no action was taken. He continued sending his child support checks as the agreement required. He had no contact, no idea most of the time where to try to find them.
Yeah.
I can't find mention of the youngest child, who was a daughter, who was 7 years old at the time of the murder.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot find any mention of that father, any type of involvement or anything like that. So for Heather, her mother was just another friend. Barbara had no life outside of her children.
Yeah.
She had no friends her own age. She was always hanging around with Heather and her friends. She was the mom who would let kids do whatever they wanted while they were at her house.
Yeah.
Parties, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever they wanted to do. She didn't care.
Okay.
Yeah. In public, it was described that she was always yelling at the kids. Despite this chaos, Heather and her brother, from all reports, even later on, were very loyal to Barbara. They would have done whatever she asked.
Oh, she lets them do whatever they want.
Right. So, I mean, we can all kind of agree that this type of home life, this type of childhood does not set you up for success.
No.
I also believe that this, not only is it disheartening to hear about for the children and what they were having to go through, it also it really tells you what type of person Barbara was.
Yeah.
And why it's not hard to see how she got this plan together.
Yeah.
And carried it through. So now we have some of the why of the story. We'll cover more of the how and the outcome when we come back from this break. Around March of 2001, Barbara began to plot to have Jerry killed. He recently had sold a home, and she was aware that he had made $40,000 profit on the deal. So you were way off by your $10,000 estimate.
Okay.
Which I was like, $40,000 is, it's a good chunk of money.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, back then. And I was like, wait, that was just in 2001. $40,000 hasn't inflated that much.
No.
Since 2001.
But to people with no money, $40,000 is a lot that they could blow.
Well, to people who don't want to earn their own money and just want to use other people's money.
Correct.
Yeah, sure. So she wanted that money. She first tried poisoning him with weed killer, but that did nothing but make him just really sick. It did not kill him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks. Because especially, terminal cancer. That probably didn't help either.
I'm sure it did not. She then settles on, this more physical way of taking him out and committing the murder. So reportedly, she went first to Miriam Oliver, Heather's best friend. And in exchange for roller skates and her entrance to the roller skating rink paid, Miriam and a few others were supposed to beat Jerry to death while he was sleeping one night. For roller skates, mind you.
Hey, and the entrance fee.
Right.
Don't forget the fee.
They decided they couldn't go through with it, and they backed out. Then Barbara repeated, she kept asking people.
Yeah.
She's really not bright. At one point, she had asked a friend to carry out the deed if she agreed to pay him $5,000. He declined the offer, but I read that he possibly took the money from her and then disappeared. Either way, it didn't happen.
Honor amongst thieves, right?
Yes. And then Heather and Miriam met 17-year-old Jeffrey Grote at the local roller rink. So Barbara was fine with Heather, who was 13 at the time, and Jeffrey dating. She was so fine with it that within days of them meeting, he was living in the basement apartment, and he and Heather were sharing a room.
Sweet.
Right. She essentially sets her daughter up as bait to get Jeffrey involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pimped her daughter out.
Mother of the year.
Definitely. So for her part in this plan, Heather is promised a new bike. And this is documented in her diary, and a diary entry that she said, if Mom told us that if we help take care of Jerry, I'm going to get a new bike.
Okay.
Yeah. So Barbara offered to buy Jeff a car and give him some money if he could get a couple of guys together to help rid her of her boss. She complained to him that Jerry was verbally abusive to Heather and herself, and that she wished that he were dead.
Of course.
Right. It's always somebody else.
That's right.
Always. So Jeffrey then convinced his friend Kyle, and then Kyle brought in his cousin. She promised them $300 each.
Wow.
What these kids did for what they expected in return blows my fucking mind.
Oh, yeah.
It's disgusting. So within a week, the plan's together. She's got a new plot.
Okay.
So it was agreed that the boys would each have a baseball bat. Jeffrey would have Heather's aluminum bat that she used for softball. And Kyle and his cousin would each have a souvenir Mariners bat that was found in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what those were made out of. I don't know. I mean, it was enough to do damage, so it wasn't like they were plastic or something. So I'm not sure if they were wooden. But they were not full-size sports bats. So the boys were going to hide on the main floor, and they were going to wait for Jerry to come home that night while Barbara, her two younger children, mind you, there's the two younger children who were at home.
Yeah.
Heather and Miriam would be downstairs in the basement apartment. Heather and Miriam were to take the knife, and after the guys beat down Jerry, they were to finish the job with the knife. I'm not going to rehash exact details of the murder. It was described very well in one article that I read, and there are a lot of details that I've shared on this podcast. There are a lot of gruesome things that I've shared.
Yeah.
Some of that, it was too much for some reason.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was because it was children doing this to an adult or the senselessness of it. And you know, there are sexual crimes that I've discussed.
Yeah.
That I don't want to say bothered me less, but I did relay some details that were not pleasant. For some reason, this one hit me differently, and I don't really know why. So essentially, From court records, the final blow was given by Miriam when she crushed his skull with the aluminum bat. Barbara stayed in the basement the entire time, reportedly yelling words of encouragement and direction to the group of kids as they carried out the murder. So she was down in the basement cheerleading for this guy to get killed. Yeah. One report states that sometime during the actual beating, possibly when the stabbing began, Kyle and his cousin had second thoughts about their part in all this, and they grabbed Jerry's car keys and they took off. I can't really confirm that. It's only in one person's statement and account of things.
Okay.
So when the mob of teenagers is done with the task of killing Jerry, Barbara gets everyone on cleanup mode. Even her 11-year-old son and her 7-year-old daughter are cleaning up blood. Her daughter had the task of cleaning up brain matter off of the cabinets. They gather the weapons and they clean up, items. They get all of that, put it in a trash bag. Jerry's body is rolled up in a rug. They take him out to Barbara's car. They drive out to the edge of town to dump the bag of cleanup stuff and weapons. And the body is in the rug. It's put in just a shallow grave. And then they went out to eat using Jerry's credit card to pay the bills. Because, they're hungry.
Huh.
Yeah. The next day, Barbara rented a U-Haul truck with a check from Jerry's checkbook. She loaded up his belongings from his home, furniture, other items of any worth, loaded up the truck and left. Keep in mind, the mother is there at this house, the 89-year-old mother.
Oh, yeah.
Right. She left her alone, abandoned her. This woman who was suffering from Alzheimer's could not feed, care for herself, go to the bathroom by herself, was wheelchair bound.
Yeah.
She needed help taking care of herself 100%. She's all alone. She left her all alone. She used Jerry's money to pay for 6 months' rent at an apartment and then took the kids on shopping sprees for clothing and other things. And I honestly believe that they thought that there would be no repercussions.
Of course.
I really think that they thought they weren't going to get caught.
Well, I don't think anything has been... She has never been caught for anything, so She would not suspect anything other than that.
No.
Especially with CPS not doing anything anywhere, or any judge, along with her child support orders. It's just, she's never been punished for anything. Why would she think otherwise?
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right. I will know at some point the group went back to where Jerry was left to pour acid over his body, and they dumped his wallet with him. These people they're stupid, but they also were they wanted to pour the acid to cover up his identity, to make it harder to identify and to found. Leave any evidence of them.
Yeah.
It didn't work. Why would you try to cover up your crime and then leave the wallet right by him? Regardless of pouring the acid over to try to cover up any evidence, you wouldn't think that you would leave the wallet.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. So they were caught, obviously, just 4 days later. So in a weird turn of events, Jerry's son, Greg, and his wife flew in for a trip that had been pre-planned, to visit with his dad and his grandmother. Jerry was supposed to be there to pick them up from the airport.
Yeah. And
he didn't show. They waited for a few hours. Finally, they were like, let's just get a taxi. Maybe he forgot, let's get a taxi and go to the house. Yeah. They go to the house. It looks abandoned. They couldn't see anyone home. Nobody's answering the door. His dad hadn't been answering the phone. Yeah. So they're obviously worried. Yeah. That they were thinking that maybe something happened with grandma. Grandma's in the hospital and he forgot to come and get them.
Or he couldn't get them.
Right. So Greg, the son, manages to get through like a side window, enters the house, and it looks like somebody's cleaned out the house. half the furniture is missing. There's shit all over the place.
Yeah.
Stuff is, off the walls, but there's no sign of Jerry. And then they find Jerry's mother. And she had been there for 4 days on her own.
Oh.
In a wheelchair. No access to food, water, the bathroom. She's dehydrated and she's really badly off, but she's alive.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. They find small torn pieces of newspaper that she had been attempting to feed herself with.
Oh.
It really just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry, again, is nowhere to be found. Greg and his wife immediately call 911. Investigators come and they start tearing the house apart. They're like, what? This is a huge abandonment case, basically, is what they're thinking.
Yeah.
They're searching for any clues, evidence as to what's taken place. They start finding blood splatter. They find it on a few walls, cabinets in the kitchen. They also find blood on the wheelchair. So yes, they killed Jerry in front of his mother, who could do nothing.
Yeah. Or if she even realized it.
I don't know. It's really hard to say.
Yeah.
Investigators also find some financial records that are scattered by Jerry's desk among like other papers in just disarray. So while at the house, a phone call comes in from a police officer that there's been an accident. And they're like, yeah, there's been a fucking accident. We're looking at it. Like some shit went down here. And the police officer's like, no, there's been a vehicle accident. I have Barbara Opel with a U-Haul truck that's been rented in Jerry Heiman's name with his checkbook with a check in his name. And she's been in an accident with this U-Haul.
Wow.
Right.
Like, how do you do that? I don't know.
I don't know. That's the thing. Here's the other thing. This bitch is driving on a suspended license.
Of course she is.
She has not had a license since 1992.
Okay.
It's 2001.
Yeah.
And she's been pulled over 8 times on a suspended license and still has not served any jail time.
Or even got a ticket. Or
I'm sure she got some tickets.
Yeah.
I'm sure she got some tickets. 8 cops are not going to let you go for that.
Maybe.
She should have been in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they probably saw that she had kids and was like, oh, single mom.
Maybe. I don't know. I want to know how she got away with that shit. So how does she get a U-Haul? I don't know. She got one. She used his checkbook. It was in his name. And she's driving it with his shit.
Huh.
His furniture, his belongings. So they call up and they say, yeah, there's an accident. And they ask where Jerry is. And the officers are like, well, the officers at the house, the investigators are like, well, he's not here. And we're actually, something went down here. Yeah. You need to hold her.
Yeah.
So her and the kids are taken down to the station. She acts like this is just, she's cooperative. She doesn't know nothing about nothing. She's really shaken up with this accident.
Yeah.
And she gives a bullshit story that Jerry left and the kids don't know what happened to him or why his mother was left alone. They talk to the kids and the kids are like cooperating that.
Yeah.
At first. Until the youngest can't keep the secret anymore. So her little 7-year-old. It doesn't take long before Barbara's son then cracks as well, the 11-year-old. He's the one who actually gives away the location of where the body has been disposed of. With all of this evidence and the discovery of the body, everyone who had any connection to this murder is quickly brought in on charges in the murder of Jerry Heimann. Kyle and his cousin, Heather and Miriam, were all held for $100,000 cash-only bail. Jeffrey was held on $1 million bail. And Barbara was considered a flight risk, so she was held without bail to await her trial. Of course, her son and her daughter, her 11 and 7-year-old, were put into the system then
Fosters.
at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go over all the trials and the convictions. So Heather Opel, who was 13 years old at the time of Jerry's murder, was tried and convicted as an adult. Even though there was significant amount of history in the state documents in regards to abuse and neglect, the judge responsible for determining how the teens would be charged, either as juveniles or adults, felt that Heather would be appropriately held accountable if she were charged as an adult. She pled guilty to charges of first-degree murder and assault with a deadly weapon. She was sentenced to 22 years in prison with credit for time served. So this year is the year that her sentence would be up. I can't find if she has yet to be released or will be released yet. I can't see that information.
Huh.
So I will mention on a side note, she is another female inmate I found with the caged lady's profile.
Of course she is.
Yeah.
She knows she's getting out, so she needs someone.
I guess. Since her incarceration, she has earned her high school diploma and an associate's degree, and at the time of her release will either have or was working on her BA in business management. So okay. she's done quite a bit to try to do what she should have done in the first place. Yeah. What things that should have come for her and been part of her life in the first place. Yeah. You know, given the rocky start and everything. Okay, so Kyle Boston, who was 14 at the time of the crime, pled guilty to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 18 years in prison with credit for time served. He has since served his time and he's been released. Really don't have much more information on him.
Did he serve the full time?
So he ended up serving 2 years while he was awaiting his trial and sentencing.
Yeah.
And then, he served a full 18 years altogether.
Okay.
Yeah. His cousin, who at the age of 13 was the only one of the 5 who was tried as a minor. So he was sentenced to an automatic release from juvenile detention at the age of 21. So he has since been released as well. His name is not mentioned in reports or court documents that are unsealed due to the fact that he was tried as a minor.
As a minor, yeah.
Right. Miriam Oliver was tried as an adult for her crimes as well, even though she was, again, 14 at the time of the crime. She was also sentenced to serve 22 years in exchange for pleading guilty to second-degree murder. I'm not quite sure why she got second when Heather got first.
Yeah.
Because it was confirmed that Miriam was part of the original plot.
Okay.
So it was a planned, premeditated murder that she had been involved in, even though she backed out the first time. She had been with it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. And that might have been just her plea deal.
Yeah.
She has tried to file for clemency, and she also appealed her sentencing as an adult, but all attempts have been denied. I watched a recorded TED Talk that she gave on women who have been through programs that have given them marketable job skills that allowed them success when they were released. While some of her remarks seemed very flippant, given what I know about her
past
crime.
Yeah.
It was a well-presented kind of look at, this is what actual good prison reform can do.
Yeah.
Here are these women who, could have just gone through prison, served their time, gotten out, probably been repeat offenders, maybe had a, really hard time trying to assimilate back into society, if they ever really did assimilate into society. And here they are with, good job skills. Like one of them was actually somebody who learned how to translate. She learned how to translate things into Braille. So books, paper, newspapers, magazines, anything like that wouldn't normally be something that people with, an impairment, a disability would not have access to those things if they were blind. It only happens because people translate them into Braille for them. And that is a very specific skill set. One of these ladies was able to do that. She did it so well that she's working for a university. It was just a really good example of this is what prison reform could do.
Or should be.
I can appreciate what she was trying to speak on. Even though it kind of irked me a little bit.
Well, she had plenty of time to prepare her TED Talk.
Yes. So she, didn't get the clemency. I believe her release date will be sometime in the next 2 years because I couldn't really see when her actual sentencing was. I could find her appeal, but I couldn't find her actual court documents of her conviction. So I was able to find some documents and not others. The system's not very user friendly.
Okay.
So, and then we come to Jeffrey Grote. Jeffrey was charged as an adult as well, which at 17 makes absolute complete sense to me. I don't have a problem with that. He was charged with first-degree murder. He pleaded not guilty. He went to trial. His sentencing was actually after Barbara's, and I'll get to her in a moment, but basically in exchange for testifying against Barbara. He was granted a lesser sentence. He was found guilty. He was sentenced to 50 years prison time with 2 years deducted for time served.
Okay.
He is set to be released in 2046. He has used his time in prison to also graduate from high school. He has an associate's degree, and his goal upon release is to open up a youth sports training facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To teach youngins how to kill people?
No, sports.
Right, Because he used a baseball bat.
Well, he was into sports.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
By sports, does he mean murder?
I don't think so.
I don't want him training young kids.
I do have a little bit of a concern with that.
I mean, he's rehabilitated. He served his time.
He has served his time, and that's the thing is
Well, he
when
hasn't served it yet.
Well, he is not eligible for parole, so his release date is 2046. Yeah.
Sweet.
So, I mean, he might be able to have some people start something from prison. I don't know. I don't know. We finally come to Barbara's trial, and this happened in April of 2003. She pleaded not guilty to her charges, of course.
Of course.
Her defense was to paint Jerry as an alcoholic who was abusive to her and Heather. She also blamed Heather and Jeffrey as the ringleaders of the plot to murder Jerry. She claimed that she only wanted the kids to give him a beating, teach him a lesson, but don't kill him.
Of course.
Yeah, she threw her daughter under the bus.
Of course, that's how she is.
Yeah. Heather, Miriam, and Jeffrey all testified, actually, for the prosecution, not just Jeffrey. So Jerry's children also had the opportunity to speak, and they had very different things to say about their father. They claimed that he was kind-hearted, he was generous, he was not a mean person, and he was not abusive. Given the fact that he allowed a single mother to come and live in his home in exchange for helping him care for his elderly mother while he is a terminal cancer patient.
Yeah.
Trying to do what he can do for his mother who's elderly and has Alzheimer's. I'm going to lean more towards, he was a very kind and generous man. I mean,
it was a good man.
He was a good man.
He had a good heart.
Yeah, he might not have been the nicest of men. I don't know.
I don't know either, but
I don't know too many people that would do that. His heart was in the right
place.
Yeah. So her attempts at making herself look innocent they don't work. She's convicted of aggravated first-degree murder, abandonment of Jerry's mother, which I'm glad that they did charge her with that, and second-degree theft of over $8,000 of Jerry's money that she managed to spend in just 4 fucking days.
Yeah. See, and that was the whole reason she was hired. I'm glad they got her on that because the whole reason she was hired was to take care of Jerry's mother, and then she abandoned her for 4 fucking days. That should have been charged like the worst. Well, I guess murder, but
I mean, abandonment, I believe, does carry some weight, but I almost feel like that is. I mean, I guess it's not assault. I don't know.
No, I think it's attempted murder. You abandon someone
who can't take care of themselves.
That's correct. Yeah. You abandon someone that doesn't have the means to take care of themselves, and that was your job.
Right.
That's attempted murder.
Yeah.
Or manslaughter.
Yeah.
Because they can't fend for themselves.
And you're negligible for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they probably argue there was no contract signed. Jerry was a nice guy.
I'm sure probably. Heart. Yeah.
There are a million ways,
Yeah.
A public defender could, because I'm sure she didn't have money to pay for that. So.
I'm sure
the
not.
public defender would have said, there's no contract. There's no proof of that.
Right. So the convicting jury recommended the death penalty. However, the sentencing jury could not agree unanimously. So that resulted to her being sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is just as good. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't want to pay for her.
No,
for the rest of her life.
Yes, and that is why I sometimes don't agree with that sentence. However, there are other times when that sentence is just as good. She was not she's 38. She was still a lot of life that she could have lived.
Yeah.
And she's lost out on that. She doesn't get that now. She's probably somebody's bitch in prison.
Yeah.
If there is a God. So upon her sentencing, she was also ordered to never have contact with her children again. Again, I completely agree.
Yeah.
The damage she did to them was unspeakable. I read a lot of things, but one of the things that stuck with me was that her son went on to have a variety of issues and was in trouble with the law. Not that many years after all of this took place, while he was actually in the foster care system, he was charged with sexually assaulting 2 young children.
Oh.
Yes.
He just had a lot of issues.
The damage.
Yeah.
That this woman wrecked these people, wrecked these kids.
Yeah, I've said it a lot too. You don't get to pick your family, but you need a license to drive a car. You don't need a license to be a mother.
No. So the youngest daughter is probably the luckiest. She would have been around the least amount of time. And because of her age, I'm sure that they got her a lot of counseling, a lot of mental health help. And hopefully she was able to go on and live her life with, minimal memories of her mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm sure, all 3 of those children are scarred for life. Even now that, the 2 are adults.
She seemed pretty good with her high school diploma, with the daughter with the high school diploma and the
I do feel like she yeah. But that doesn't take away the mental issues.
I guess not.
It doesn't. It doesn't. So what are your thoughts on all this? Trying the teens as adults and all that.
The 17-year-old I was fine with. I don't know about the others that were under 17. Because they were just following the lead of the mom.
Yeah.
But then, what was his name? The boyfriend?
Jeffrey?
Yeah, he got his cousin to come along and...
No, Kyle.
Oh, Kyle.
Kyle had a cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle was Jeffrey's friend.
Yeah, and he talked him into coming along. Hey, let's go do this.
But again, even that, you look at the age difference. Jeffrey was 17, Kyle was 14. His cousin was 13.
Yeah, it's all impressionable ages.
Right.
Oh, the older kid wants me to do this. I'll be the cool kid.
I do too. I struggled with that. The only thing is the brutality and the bloodiness of this crime was, what they did was horrific. It wasn't a mistake.
No.
It was a very planned out, organized thing that they took part in. And while I understand what peer pressure does to a teenage mind, especially when you have a parent who is essentially operating as a teenager in this scenario, the kids come over, they do whatever they want at her house. She don't give a fuck. She's letting her 13-year-old sleep with a 17-year-old, encouraging it, using it to her advantage. No good is going to come out of that influence. None.
No.
But then I have to look at it this way too. That judge had that I don't know, foresight, I guess, when he was looking at who should be charged as an adult and who shouldn't. And in this case, they made good on their time in prison. And they've done the best that they can to turn their lives around so that when they are released, they have something to utilize to better themselves when they re-enter society.
But yeah.
I have to give them credit for that.
They must have known other things too. Or the judge must have known other things.
Well, there are a lot of things that, there's a lot of backstory that I didn't go into for everybody, but essentially not one of those kids came from a good home life.
No,
They were all from, Miriam lived with her grandmother from the age of 13 months old because her mother was a drug user, and I'm not sure about her father. That was not a good home life.
No.
Kyle and his cousin both came from very broken homes. Their parents, drug users, abusive. Jeffrey came from a broken home as well. And of course, we know what Heather's home life was like. So yeah, none of those kids had anybody immediately showing them, parents, let's just say parents, because I can't speak for Miriam's grandmother.
Figures.
It doesn't seem like anybody had that positive influence that you would hope that a young child would have, a teenager would have growing up to say, do the hard shit, to do the hard, make the hard decisions. Yeah, I'm going to have to punish you. I know that you went to this party. I know that you did whatever. I got to punish you for it because that's what I got to do. I've got to teach you that was a bad decision that you made. I have to punish you for, not doing your chores. I have to punish you for skipping curfew.
No, none
I have
of
to
those
make those
kids
hard
were
decisions.
Told no.
Right.
I see that mentality, a lot. Nobody tells you no, so you think you can get away with everything in the whole world. And even in life, the way they interact with everybody. Oh, it's cool, you can just go along with it.
Right. So, yeah, I just kind of, in this case, I think that was the right decision. Now that we see it from this side. At that time, I probably would have been a complete opposite opinion and said, I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
Because I think in this case, this is the exception. It's not the norm. We've heard of kids that went into the system, teenage years, went into the system tried as an adult, went into an adult, prison. And they don't end up well.
No.
Because that is not geared towards them. It's not made for them.
No. It's not at all. And I think it's been a little bit different too because they've acted alone, but this one they had a ringleader, you know what I mean? And the mom, I don't know, man.
Yeah, it definitely, I'm pretty split on it, to be honest.
I am too.
I think the only reason I'm not more against it is because of how, when I did my research, all of them were really trying to get their shit together, like really had put the time and effort into looking at what they did was wrong, acknowledging that they were wrong. What could they do to not waste their lives and waste the opportunities that they had while in prison? Yeah. And I think that did come out, when I was reading up, on what they've been doing since they've been in prison.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's just unfortunate that they had this mother figure just not tell them no.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. I mean, because if you look, like in Heather's case, she was a straight A and B student. Like she was a good student. Even when they were homeless and living in the car, she's still getting to school. She's still a good student. She participated in sports. She wanted to be a women's basketball player. She wanted to be part of the WNBA.
Yeah.
She had goals.
But
nobody was telling her to stay, do the straight and narrow, stick to your goals. Those are important. Don't fuck with that.
Yeah.
Nobody was telling her that.
And her mom wasn't the greatest role model. Like her mom didn't have goals. Her mom's goals were to skip out on rent. Let's move to the next town.
Right. Let's do what we want to do and get away with it with no repercussions. That's what the goals were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm curious to know any other opinions on this too. If you guys have opinions, chime in, because this is not a one answer fits all. There's definitely a lot of gray area in this one, I think. It's just, yeah. And I want to say that this is, unfortunately, it's another case of mental illness and, mental and physical abuse. And I don't know what happened to Barbara to cause her to act this way, but, I see what she did to her children, and there's definitely a issue there that she suffered from some type of mental abuse.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, mental illness. I can't say that she suffered from mental abuse. I don't know. But I definitely believe she had some mental illness. There was actually a report. There was 2 neuropsychologists that testified after interviewing her. They concluded that she had a brain impairment and that she suffered from something called perseveration, which is the inability to stop recurrent thoughts.
Oh.
And I thought that was interesting because it was like she just fixated on, I've got to get this money. Yeah. And maybe that's why she just acted the way she did. Because it was like, it was all, I got to get this money.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, I hope she's getting help wherever she is. She's not getting out of jail, but I hope she's getting help with her mental health. As for Jerry Heimann, he is remembered as a giving and generous man who is very much missed by his family. The family contended at every trial and sentence hearing that they went to, and they went to everybody's. The 5 kids, hers, they went to it all. They, made it known that Jerry would never have been abusive, verbally or physically, to anyone he came in contact with, just like, Barbara had tried to claim.
Yeah.
While they acknowledged that he drank a lot, he had a lot of worries. He had a lot of cares in the world.
Yeah.
He liked to go hang out and socialize at local bars. He wasn't mean. He wouldn't have hurt anybody. They also repeatedly mentioned that he was devoted to his mother. He never would have knowingly put her in place with somebody horrible like that.
The other thing too
care.
is like he didn't have a history of that. Did you find that?
No.
Who doesn't enjoy a drink?
Right. I'm sorry if I'm terminally ill. I'm doing
sure
some shit
before that. You know what I mean? Like
I'm sure he did,
that,
but he lived a long life. He worked in industries where it was, very physical, labor intensive industries. Yeah. And he did what he did. He wasn't hurting nobody.
Like I said, he doesn't have a history of that. Her history wasn't outstanding.
No.
And I'm glad that they went to all 5 trials because, to allow someone to slander your father who wasn't even that, they're trying to misrepresent him.
Right.
I think that's awesome. That's amazing that they went and defended him because he can't defend himself.
Right.
Because of the actions of these 5 people.
Right. No, absolutely. You're right. You're absolutely right. I think that just further testimony towards what type of person he was, that his children would go and do that for him and want to remember him in a certain way. That just speaks to what type of person he was even more and how he raised them.
Yeah. And I think you dishonor him when you use that as an excuse that he was abusive. You know what I mean? And he wasn't that person. That dishonors his memory.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you guys made it to the end with us. That's our episode. Woo-hoo. Yay. Thank you for listening all the way through. And as I promised, here are the instructions.
How do I get this sweet merch?
Well, you already can get the sweet merch.
I'm speaking.
Oh, you're speaking for the audience.
Yes.
For the listeners. Okay. All right. So this is open to all of our listeners, even internationally. So if you are listening to us and you're overseas, you're outside of the United States, you can enter.
Even in Fofar.
Yes. If you even just said that correctly. I don't know.
Far.
I don't know.
Anyway, Scotland.
Yeah. Yes. So here's what you need to do. So there are multiple chances here. So for one entry, make sure you're following us on our Instagram. It's WHITW, right? Yeah, WHITW podcast. I know it. I do.
Are you sure?
Yes, I know it.
Okay.
WHITW podcast on Instagram.
Correct.
Okay, follow us. Make sure you're not. If you're not, make sure you are. Comment your thoughts on today's episode, the post on Instagram. So we always post something for the episode. So let us know your thoughts on today's episode and then tag 2 friends who also love true crime. So that's how you can get 1 entry.
Sweet.
Whatever. Okay. So you can get 2 more chances. So a bonus entry if either of your friends follow us on Instagram as well. And lastly, if you listen on any platform where you can rate and review, such as Apple. I know other places do it, but I don't know who.
Let's just narrow it to Apple.
Okay, Apple. So rate us, review us. And if you leave us a review and a rating, send us a screenshot and a private message on Instagram, and you'll have another chance to win. So that's 3 chances to win. 3 entries. Okay.
Awesome.
You got this?
I got it.
Okay. So we have 2 logo designs to choose from, and then there's men's tees, women's tees. And after the winner has been notified, we'll send them info on what they can choose, and they can let us know what they want. So this contest is going to run from today, so Friday, August 6th, for 1 whole week. Do you know what that puts the end date at? Do you have a calendar?
August 13th.
Yes, which is a Friday. So Friday the 13th. Lucky Friday the 13th. So they got 7 days to win a t-shirt.
Did that shit on purpose?
I didn't.
Yeah, right.
But I thought it was great.
Yeah, right.
All right. So good luck to everybody. And
Good luck.
if you don't want to enter the contest or you just want to buy a t-shirt, sales are going to begin August 9th. So Monday. So today's Friday. You got a couple of days. August 9th, they'll be on sale. And they will be on sale until beginning of September. So you got a month. And then we will be back with our season 3 finale. We're already done with the season.
Are we?
Yeah. 1 more episode.
It's the finale?
Yeah. Are you prepared?
Yeah. I don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything. Yeah. I keep jokingly saying that Bryce needs to do an episode where he researches and brings it to me, and he will not do it.
If you get to edit.
I can, though, if you set it up for me.
And do the music.
I can do the music. I can sit in your chair. I can do all your things.
Okay.
I just don't do them as well.
Okay.
If you want this episode to actually go out and people to listen to it, then no. I should not be in charge of that.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm not as good at that stuff. I'm not.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, come back for season 3 finale, August 20th. Until then, please remember to be kind to one another, guys. Stay safe. And of course, as always, you know by now what we got to say. Stay out of the damn woods.
Stay out of the woods.
Bye, guys.
Bye.